Okay, so this will be a feedback slash critique for Futurebeats. You already know the drill by now. I'm not a professional by any means, right? I just like Tekken. I love playing Paul. He's really fun. And I'm trying to offer some food for thought, right? Where are some areas where you could use some tweaking? I think you got some feedback on the Yoshi matches, and I just kind of agree with most of what they said. Right, a lot of it is more matchup specific stuff, so I can't really like comment on that. It's just like grind out the matchup more, lab the matchup. I can give you specific strategies or something, but I don't really have much to say on that front. It's more so you just need experience in that matchup and how to handle playing it, right? But the two key points for the video today is going to be a lot about why you're pressing so much and doing things with intention, like Sampi was mentioning, or Sampi, I don't know how he pronounces it. Right. Because the biggest thing for me, I'm like when I was watching the Jack matchup, like Sampi talks about it, it's the whiff punishment. And you have your movement is solid, your combos are solid, your awareness is pretty solid, and you don't press anything. Like the final round of this match was like fantastic, right? Absolutely fantastic. But there's a little bit of areas here where I'm like, hey, you could shore up some of the work here, and we'll try and get into it and see what comes up.
We are getting it started. Losers final. Oh yeah, palm right in the face. You want to talk about an iron palm? Steel palms out here. Palms of steel.
Okay, so like right here, right? Another thing to consider is
Steel palms out here. Palms of steel.
right here. Oh, maybe you were thinking it was a punish situation. Don't worry. I thought you were trying to press back one for some reason. I'm like, why? He's not really stepping, and it's Jack. You don't have to worry about Jack sidestepping something. Not as much anyway. But let's keep watching. You might have thought it was a punish situation.
A little bit of backlash
Nice.
here, and the super roll.
Unfortunate.
I guess off that
Debug.
the huggies, but we're not ready to go night night yet.
So like right here, right? This is where this is tough. So let's talk about this concept for a second.
The huggies, but
This situation, right? Your positioning is solid. You're trying to make sure the Jack is back is to the wall, right? And you're you're not like rushing in with the button super solid, right? But it this is where you want to slow things down a bit, right? I understand that you're at low health. Jack has a lot of health. You'll die in a poke or something, right? But let's be real here. You're the one with the advantage, right? Paul with rage, the round is in his favor until he loses it. So here you can do a lot with just simple dash blocking and or just holding back because the opponent is going to be very scared of your approach, right? If they throw out a random button, they're likely going to die. So when you're in this situation where you have the advantage, sometimes it'll be a health advantage, sometimes it's just Paul has rage, I have to play defense now. Wait a little bit, right? Just pump the brakes a little. You don't have to completely stop movement, but experiment with messing around with your timings more, right? Instead of dash forward attack, it'll be dash back dash, or it'll be something like walk forward slightly but then hold back, right? Because the main thing here is gonna be
we're not ready to go.
when you're too over eager to just kind of like try and close into the gap and solidify your positioning, you miss out on a big whiff punishment opportunity here, right? Like if Jack had whiffed that earlier because he's scared of something, one blue death fist and the round's very much likely over, right? So that's gonna be a running theme throughout the set of just kind of like when you're too antsy and there's a round, like we'll see in the last round of this match, where you play really patiently, you play really well. So in the earlier rounds, you want to rein that in a little bit. I feel like a lot of the damage you're getting hit with is just because you're too over eager to like apply pressure or apply offense, and you have I would maybe it could be your play style, and that can be fine, right? But I think you should experiment and practice a bit more on just run out the clock, right? Obviously, when you have low health, that's a different story. But just playing super patiently and don't be afraid to let the clock run out, right? There's a tweet I saw the other day, and it was fantastic. It was some Zafina player versus a Brian player. They're on Infinite Azure, and the Zafina player is, I'm not going to try and like be too judgmental on the guy, but he's like, I can't believe someone would do this. And what was happening was the Zafina player was just standing still, and the Brian was just back. They had like, it was at full health. The Brian player was just backdashing all the way. Backdashing all to the end of Infinite Azure, right? Anytime this Zafina player would approach, the Brian player would just backdash and just taunt or something, right? And it's like, yeah, what the fuck did you expect when you're playing Zafina on an infinite stage? Are you fucking for real? Is this really a surprise to you? And that's something that you should be trying to practice a little bit here and there, right? Is that players are too antsy, they're too overeager to press buttons and challenge shit, whether it's offline or online. Online, it's like way more. Online people are just fucking insane and will just throw out buttons like no tomorrow, right? Offline, it's a little bit more, people are a little bit more reserved, but at the same time, you know, tournament nerves, adrenaline, etc., 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 and then they'll just start throwing up buttons, and then they should be dying for it. So I think you should experiment more. Like, okay, I might not have the life lead, but I have some form of advantage, or especially huge mental advantage, right? Of Paul has rage, Jack 7's back is to the wall, and he has to survive 34 seconds, right? So you should be able to leverage that and really elicit a response from your opponent, get a big punish opportunity by just having that mental threat, right? But rushing in and trying to like force an opening, unless you have a really good understanding of your opponent's timing, right? It's not always gonna be ideal. So, long story short, press less buttons, but experiment more with how you want to change up your timing, right? Sometimes you'll do dash up, empty, roll dash, and that's perfectly okay, right? You definitely want to experiment more with like, how can I mix up my timings and, you know, mentally like freak out my opponent. That's the goal.
No, not yet. I do not need to lay down. I'm not drunk enough for this.
Good punish.
Quite punished to get off of that one. That one was nice.
So like right here, another thing you do sometimes, I can't say that it's a bad habit, because it's not like you're doing this is not like your default option. But you commit to the forward 2 a lot, right? Both whether it's the just frame or the mid, and you're not canceling it. Or just in general, you're using it as an approach tool. And I feel like your approach could use a bit more, not like work, like you're not terrible at it. I'm not trying to say like, oh, how dare you, but you need to experiment more with your options. You need to try out different ways of approaching the opponent, right? And not just dash blocking, because I feel like you're patient enough where you're fine on that end at least, right? But your approach can mean a lot of things, right? All you're doing is, when you approach an opponent, is that you're trying to apply pressure on them, right? Sometimes it'll be rush down, sometimes it'll be dash blocking, whatever. But your opponent's back is to the wall, and it's not like Jack is going to sidestep. So I think here you could have done just walk forward slightly and do something like, where is it? Like at this range, right? You could do something like course will go back 4. It won't lock him down necessarily, but it'll give you some plus frames to work with. And yeah, it's just +1, but a jab is just +1, and a jab opens up a lot of opportunities, right? And that's also something I'll talk about in a second. But basically, what can you do to keep plus frames while locking down your opponent, right? So like right here would be core circle back 4. Right here would be forward 1 plus 2, right? Because the Jack's not really throwing out a lot of buttons because he's afraid like you'll whiff punish him or something, right? So once you're in his head mentally, right? Just back 1 4 or back 4, forward 1 plus 2, core circle back 4. Options that would normally be kind of risky, but when your opponent's back is to the wall, can open up a lot of pressure opportunities, right? So that's sort of that situation of like, you don't have to go in necessarily. You can just kind of control the space with your pressure options, right? And it's like that thing of like, well, how do I force my opponent to do something? It's just keep pressing your buttons that leave you in a positive situation, because the opponent, unless their defense is just like rock solid, like they're a literal iron wall, at which point you kind of have to be a bit creative, right? But even the most solid defense in the world, you know, there's cracks in it, right? You need to be able to try and elicit a response from your opponent as much as you can with the least amount of commitment, right? And that's the big thing I'm seeing here, is that when you're in like these clutch situations, you go for some pretty heavy commitment options that you don't necessarily need to, right? So either try out the cancel, right? Because the cancel, yeah, you're like -30 or some shit, -20, and super sharp opponents will just launch you for it if they have a good read. But again, it's a read, right? They have to guess between 3 different options: the cancel, the mid follow-up, the high follow-up, right? You can argue that they'll fuzzy it, but in this situation at least, Atmu, the Jack 7, whatever, he's not fuzzying anything, right? So, you know, what are some less commitment options? I mean, the cancel's like -20, but again, it's more that the mental pressure you're doing is I don't think you would necessarily be punished for it, because the Jack 7 is very like on edge, right? They're going to be expecting the follow-ups, they're not going to be ready for the cancel. Or experimenting with core circle back 4, forward 1 plus 2, back 4, etc., etc., etc. These options that are very, very good at the wall. And then the other thing I want to talk about is just you gotta use one jab a bit more to initiate offense and try and see where that goes, right? Jab, if it gets blocked due to movement, if it gets hit, press a counter hit launcher. If it gets hit, movement, or something like that, right? Experimenting with super fast, unreactable options that force the opponent into doing something unfavorable to deal with it, right? Because if you jab, okay, so let's, well, yeah, his back is like literally right next to the wall. So like right here, okay. So the Jack's back is like pretty much at the wall. Look at him trying to backdash, and it's like he's standing still. Like he's doing the animation, but there's no movement here, right? So if you started with the one jab here, right, what is he going to do in order to deal with your one jab, right? He has to duck against Paul at the wall, right? He can't necessarily, he has down back 1, which is kind of scary, but he hasn't really used it that much throughout the match. He doesn't seem to be like that much of a down back 1 fiend, right? But even then, if you let's say you, that's also another response that you can be doing, right? If you just jab him and then backdash, I think you can backdash down back 1. I double check that, see how far, if you can backdash down back 1, or if you can step it in either direction, right? But basically, him doing nothing right now is not going to get you anywhere, right? Seems decent at breaking throws. He seems ready for them. That's not going to get you anywhere. But doing a simple one jab will force something out of him. He'll be like, well, fuck, he's doing a lot of one jabs, so I should be doing something like down back 1. And on a good read, you can like block it or just, you know, low crush it or something. Or he has to sidestep you, which okay, maybe even Jack can sidestep jabs, but like if he sidesteps, right, he's risking eating back 1, 2, and at this distance from the wall, it'll wall splat. He's risking eating up back 2. He's risking eating core circle back 4, right? He basically has to take risks in order to deal with just a simple one jab, right? Whereas you have very little commitment. You risk very close to nearly nothing on a one jab unless you're very predictable with your timing. You can argue that, like, yeah, he'll just do down back one or something, but it's like I feel like it's an easy read where it's like, oh, this is the least commitment option, so he'll probably go for that. You can read that pretty well, and then low crush, low parry, stuff like that, right? But the idea is basically you're forcing them to take a risk. Is down back one the most risky thing a Jack is ever going to do? No, but it is more risk than just blocking, right? So it's either A, the opponent just keeps letting you do one jab into offense, into starting pressure, or the opponent is, I have to do something in order to deal with this one jab, and that's whatever that something is a punishment opportunity for you. Right? Let's keep going, and then let's see what else comes up. Like right there, right here, I don't.
We're not ready to go night-night yet. Do not need to lay down. I'm not drunk enough for this. We'll keep frame punish you get off of that.
Why is it always 10 seconds? Like right here, that should have been back one too. I think you tried. You went for the one jab, but that's fine. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So in this situation, oh my god, it's gonna take me back all the way to like fucking forever. So in this situation, right, of like, you got your back is to the wall, and what's like you're at +9, and you have a mix-up opportunity, right? I honestly don't think Demo Man would be a bad option, because like I don't think it'll clean hit, but it'll counter hit. He'll be likely to press buttons. You never know. But I don't think you're. So I think that's the thing here, right? Is like you're +9, you literally die to any sort of little poke, and I think you just go for the big call out, right? Like, because Atmu just took a blue death fist at the wall. They might be scared and ready to like press buttons. Like they're ready to challenge you. I don't think in my opinion, they haven't really shown me that they're like this iron wall of defense. Like they'll defend a lot, but they're more willing to press buttons, right? So if you're going to die and you're not set on like, I'm not really confident enough to be like on a solid read against my opponent, I feel like just going for that, enforcing a mix-up in that situation is what you want to do, right? Because here's the thing, let's be real here. Is Paul going to out-fundamental Jack, just as a character, right? Are you really going to be able to contest, in a series of 100 games, are you really going to be able to contest Jack's pokes, right? Are you really going to be able to out-poke him in range 0 to 1 when he has down back 1, when he has forward 1, when he has when he has like his one jab and stuff like that, right? Not saying that it's not possible, but that's more of a player thing. We're talking as the character. What are the character's strengths? Jack is a fucking solid wall of pokes and just super fundamental Tekken, right? Paul has fundamental Tekken options, but more so than that, he has a lot of GG, shake my hand, I just stole the round moment. Like, the man's got an S+ tier in robbery, right? So in those situations where you gotta force this mix-up situation for the high risk, high reward, I feel like you should do that against Jack, right? Unless your fundamentals are so solid that you just have the reads on this guy, sure, you can go that route. But I feel like you're not utilizing some of the character's strengths, right? TLDR, you're +9 against Jack at the wall. I think you just go for a mix-up. Like, straight up just be like, congratulations, you block Blue Death Fist. Guess what? It's 50-50 time, baby. Guess right. Because like you have enough. It's not like the final round, right? It's one round. You're like, okay, if he get like straight up, like of all of Paul's 50-50s available to him when he's +9, right? If you guess wrong, you die. But if he guesses wrong, you kill him, right? So whoever guesses wrong dies. And I feel like when it comes to mix-ups, at the very least, at the wall, Paul is way better than Jack, right? So food for thought, right? If you're in a situation where you're forcing a situation where your character's strengths, your character, not the player, your character strengths can come into play, you should enforce that, right? Remind people why Death Fist Demo Man is such an infamous mix-up, right? But yeah, long story short, use your frame advantage and force unfavorable situations, right? Yeah, it's high risk, but like, the reward is your opponent dying. So I think it's worth it.
Happen. All right. Getting the first bubble on their side of the screen, and you already know what that means. A lot of confidence involved there.
So sorry, let's talk about this, right? Why are you starting the round with pressing Corsica back 2, right? If he presses back 1, what is it back 1? No, that's different. Oh, that's minus 11? What the fuck? I should be... This is minus 11, by the way. Yeah, you should definitely be punishing that. Is it back 2? No. There we go. I think it's this one, right? Yeah. Oh, that's a high? That's so weird. He has this move where he presses, he presses this. This is 10 frame startup. What the fuck? And it's 20 damage. What the fuck? That shit's crazy. Wait, what's his jab? Sorry, I'm... He has a 13 frame jab? What the fuck? Jack is so weird. Wait, what about 2? Oh, he doesn't have a 10 frame jab? That's so interesting. I never knew that. Huh. I really need some Jack matchup experience. There's a really good... Oh, you know who you should play against? There's a really good Jack I fight time to time. His name's Mountain Dew Fucker. It's an interesting name, but he's on Tekken Zaibatsu a bit. I would definitely hit him up. He's got a solid Jack, and we were playing, and it's like... Oh, okay, cool. I'm like learning a lot about Jack. And Jack's just someone... It's one of those characters where you don't need to lab them, because it's like super straightforward options. It's not... I don't think labbing out situations is as important against Jack as it is... Like, it's always important, right? But he's not like a setup-based character. He's not Ling or Eddie. Or Lei, right? But he's someone that you need a lot of matchup experience with. You need to feel comfortable about getting a read on Jack 7's timings, right? TLDR, you gotta outfund, you gotta be better than the Jack player. And if you're not comfortable in the matchup, you're not gonna get that experience. But anyway, so round start, right? This guy has a 10 frame knockdown counter hit move, right? And you're challenging with Corsica back 2. First and foremost, it's kind of like why are you challenging with Corsica back 2, right? Have you conditioned him to duck in the neutral, right? When you do core circle forward, right? When you do the roll dash, yes, he's always expecting core circle forward 3, right? But just in the neutral in general, is he flash ducking you? Not really, right? I mean, this dude's also crazy because he picked Jack 7 in a Paul matchup, but hey, more power to him, right? So he's not really flash ducking you. So it's kind of like, why press that button in that situation, right? Why is that your way that you initiate offense, right? And again, it's not the worst thing. I just think there are other things you can be doing of conditioning your opponent first and then making your Corsica go back to a bit more live, right? Because in the previous round, I think he used like a pretty slow or fast move against you. I don't think Corsica back to would have beaten him. Right, but that's what I'm talking about, where it's kind of like, maybe it's tournament nerves, like I'm not trying to harp on you too much, but it's a situation of you're pressing buttons when you don't need to, and you're pressing buttons at these times where it's like you're not maximizing the strength of the button, right? Corsica back 2 is a very powerful move, absolutely. But in that situation, at the round start, when the opponent really hasn't shown that they're willing to flash duck a lot in the neutral, I think there are better times or better buttons you could be pressing in that situation, right? Again, not the worst thing. I'm just trying to, get you to think here, like, okay, in the round start, what has my opponent done previously? What am I going to challenge him with? Stuff like that.
A lot of confidence involved there. They
Right.
sidestepped to the correct direction, and yet their toes were still tapped.
again, so like right here, right? You do Corsical forward 3+4. What is he hitting you out of, right? You should just be blocking. What is he hitting you out of? So, talked about it before, just kind of like you're in these awkward situations, just block, right? Just block. Like, you gotta take the mix up, so at most, maybe you should duck, I guess. But you don't need to be, whatever you should not be getting hit out of something, right? If you're getting hit out of something, that means that tells me you're trying to move or press a button at -9. And again, it's not exactly the worst thing to do. There are times where you want to do that and disrespect your opponent. I just don't think that right now that the situations you're often in are those times, right? But we talked about it before. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I'm just saying try to rein it in a little bit, and then once your opponent is in a false sense of security, they're like, oh, he's not going to challenge me here, then go for it. But right at the round start, I feel like this Jack 7 he's not necessarily in that false sense of security phase yet, right? He's like, I'm just going to keep pressing my faster buttons or some shit. I don't know. Is that a 10 string? Right, and that's what I'm talking about here, is that your approach here is very commitment heavy. So right here, these approaches are fine, right? Movement, jabs, 1-2. 1-2 is a fantastic approach tool, right? Of course, we'll go forward 3 here and there. Corsical forward 3+4 are good. It's not by itself, it's whatever, but good mix up with Corsical forward 3. But right here, when you're going for this big commitment, Jack's back isn't really to the wall. He's not whiffing any buttons. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I think you did it because it looked like he's ducking. So maybe you're doing like a big call out. So that's not the worst thing. I still think it's a bit commitment heavy, right? I think you just dash forward a little bit and then maybe do like a Corsical back to there, right? Again, because you're just letting the Jack, if he can fuzzy duck it or if he just ducks forward 2-1, right? You're in a bad spot. So got to be a little bit careful there. Oh fuck! I love this, right? So really solid play here, right? Chip damage. You now have the health lead, and you can immediately feel the pressure on the Jack, right? He's like, well, fuck. My back is to the wall. I'm eating all this chip damage against Paul. I gotta press something, right? And he immediately presses this, and there's no whiff punish, right? So, but that style of play really solid, right? So I think your foundation is solid. You just gotta tweak it a little bit, tweak your timing a little bit, so that way you can maximize your whiff punishes. Oh no. So let's analyze the situation a little bit, right? Again, of that thing of like, it could be tournament nerves, not trying to harp on you too much. But like when you dash in and do the throw break here, I think you immediately just backdash and start repositioning, right? You don't want your back to the wall against Jack or any character really. But you just don't want to have your back to the wall, because then he can do some annoying pressure option moves, and that like would normally just reset you to neutral, but now that your back is to the wall, it's going to be really annoying against Jack, right? So you got, again, that awareness of like, I need to sidestep this stuff. I need to start getting out of the wall. It's just something that'll come with time. Not the worst thing, but just pointing out, like, always remember, like, reassess your positioning when you can, right? And if you reset to neutral in a situation like that, like with the throw bake, just get out of there. Unfortunate. I don't disagree with the idea. Obviously, the spacing, he does that a lot. I'm not sure like what. Maybe it's because for people who like get up too quickly. See, okay, so that's what I'm talking about here, right? Of like, Like given how close you are, like what exactly were you hoping to achieve with just forward forward 2-1 there, right? So again, I think the approach needs a bit of work. But let's keep watching.
Getting the damage where I can get it.
Unfortunate. Yeah. That is forward 2, right? Yeah. Or something. That move's minus. Just block and punish it. I'm like 90% sure.
Good option right there. Sway back 4. Ooh, he's dead though.
Yo, no! That was so hype. Fuck.
But unfortunately,
Good shit though.
was his guy. That's okay.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, that wasn't well. The good thing is
It was unfortunate, but yeah, no, the radar was hype. You had it.
you made the right read.
It happens.
The bad thing is there was something that happened afterwards.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering, right? So I was wondering why you didn't apply the down forward backswing mix-ups a lot, and if it's because he does a lot of like the down back 1 to immediately disrupt it. I wonder if you can do down forward down back 1, down forward 1, hold back, and then immediately hop kick. I would try to grind out the situation, right? Because I feel like the down forward 1 into backswing mix-ups are very powerful and they need to be utilized here because, again, it's a situation of you can put the Jack into an unfavorable situation, right? Like, you're not going to outpoke Jack, right? You can, but again, it's a lot of, like, it's not necessarily in your favor, right? So you want to constantly force and create situations that favor Paul over Jack. And I feel like a lot of that is going to be mix-ups, some whiff punishment, right? And then maybe approach, because like I don't really know what Jack approaches with. Down back 1, I guess. I don't know. Right, so forcing him into unfavorable situations, and I feel like down forward 1 into backsway is one of them. But if he can just option select it with down back 1, I would definitely experiment with being like, okay, if he goes for down back 1, what is my answer here? Before writing off down forward 1 mix-ups. But
You made the right read. The bad thing is there was something that happened afterwards, and that's okay.
nice.
Yeah, if he gets something nice,
Ah, yeah. It happens, but that's the thing we're talking about, right? Of like a little bit more patience. It's okay.
that even something that could have got the ball.
Honestly, I should play Jack. He's a cool character, but I can't backdash because I'm fucking lazy. So
Bring up the pressure.
get him. Yeah.
He knows you want those. You're gonna give it to him anyway. If you know that I want it.
No debug.
This man came through with the entire Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
Fuck. Yo!
What happened?
Oh, that was hype. That was a good sidestep. I feel like nice low parry. Yeah, so I feel like your sidesteps have really improved a lot. It's like you went from 0 to like you're sidestepping at critical moments. So I definitely would experiment with that a bit more. Obviously, it's difficult against Jack because forward 1, but like still there are situations where you can sidestep stuff. I'm pretty sure you can sidestep down back 1. Pretty sure. Don't quote me on it, but test it out in the lab, right?
Go to the wall. Not the most.
Ooh,
That could have been up.
that was hype though. That was hype.
Boy.
I don't know what to do against that move. So, okay, so
Boy.
Huh. I don't think it's the worst thing. I think just throws are a very, very awkward situation. But we'll talk about that.
Starting to go a little bit faster and then back with that two jab. That two jab is it's happening. That move is ooh, yeah.
Unfortunate.
Reagan Donovan is now tied it back up. Green. Bam. Nice. Yeah, a little bit too far away to get anything, but got plenty of positioning enough to be able to run up and get a good grab mix.
Nice. Oh. I like how you're calling him out and then he committed. I do the same thing. That's really funny.
Executions, both sides. That could have been a combo in death. I would have baseball slided immediately. That's just me.
So let's talk about down forward two a little bit, right? So like right here, I feel like you want to play like a bit of a mental game, right? Don't dash in and start whiffing down forward two. Just taunt them, right? Down forward two, just whiffing down forward two in the neutral like that can be a taunt in and of itself. The problem is that you're offline, right? Online, the any few frames of lag can mean the difference between your opponent getting a whiff punish and not, right? But offline, you don't necessarily have that luxury. So you have to be a lot more careful. So that's why you don't want to be just doing, let me just whiff down forward two like that, right? Because at any point the jack does forward two and then you're dead, right? Like he has a lot of long range moves where you have to be a lot more careful with your range on down forward two. So instead of doing this, right, where you're kind of like dashing in back and forth and then doing that, you have to confirm that one, he's willing to approach you, right? Atmu could be very comfortable just kind of hanging back because he has such a massive life lead and he knows that like any singular poke from you is going to kill you, right? So in the back, you can just be whiffing down forward two, or you can try and be solidifying your position a little bit, and then when you're in a good range, enforce like a core circle back two or core circle back four mix up, right? You have to be very a lot more judicious in the jack matchup. You have to be very on point with your spacing, and whiffing buttons in neutral like that is going to get you killed, right? So you want to be very careful there.
Not using the options that got them killed in the loser side.
Okay, so again, it's the situation of like, so you did attack into attack into attack, right? And remember, like, all of this is not like your well, your minus here, right? Your plus here, solid, neutral, -1, and then you're still trying to press your advantage, right? So these situations, at any point, the jack can challenge you, and it's not gonna be very. You're not really gonna. What's the word I'm looking for? You're not gonna have like this uncontested pressure, right? The jack can choose to contest you at a lot of points, and that's why you have to be very careful with Paul, and it has to be a lot more timing based. So again, experimenting with changing up your timings, right? Doing a sidestep, doing another core circle forward 3, or just waiting a little bit, right, to see with how the jack is responding to all of your pressure, and then adjusting your pressure based on his response, right? So don't again. Your playstyle seems to have a lot of commitment in areas where you don't necessarily need to. And I shouldn't say a lot of commitment because it's not like you're doing like crazy minus on block moves, but it's like your timing is too rigid, or there is not enough mix-ups in your timing, right? You're not mixing up your timing enough to where the jack will start to feel like you want to make the jack uncertain of when he wants to challenge, which is either going to result in two. It's either going to result in two things. Either number one, he's going to start throwing out random buttons because he just doesn't know when to challenge you comfortably, and he's going to try and go for a high risk gamble. Or B, he just doesn't press anything, and then you're like, you're not pressing anything. Time to put on the pressure, right? So I like you're trying to use the one jab here to kind of like to deal with the pressure. I think the spacing could be a little bit better, but I like the idea. Okay, so all right, so right as I say that, right? Why did you feel that pressing forward 1+2 in that situation would be ideal, right? Well, actually, no. Ignore what I said. I feel like that was a fine situation. The jag was crouching in front of you. I feel like that was a fine situation. Just maybe awkward timing. Ignore me. I think you were fine. Oh, nice. I wish it's fucking high. I never knew that. I mean, it makes sense when you look at the move. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a high. But Tekken always does that shit where they're like, JK, this is a mid. I'm like, you fuckers. I'm still like, I'm still annoyed at that whole Speed Kicks like podcast where he's like, oh, just look at the block sparks. I'm like, no, you can't fucking look at the block sparks. How you have any idea how many if I block Brian 4-3, you're gonna tell me that's a mid? If I look at the block spark and you tell, hey, I need to like, sorry, I'm just all over the place today. I had a lot. I think it's the caffeine. You're telling me if I block that and look at the hit and block sparks, you're gonna tell me that's a fucking mid? Fuck this game. Oh, just look at the block sparks. I'm like, man, just fucking bullshit. Ugh. Anyway, sorry. Let's keep watching. Nice. Excellent. Oh no. Oh, okay. I see what you're going for. It's unfortunate, but your execution is really good. So I think I don't disparage you for going for it. Just not much to say there besides tighten up the execution, right? Because now you were almost gonna die. oh. I think that's punishable, but yeah, I would check that. What the fuck? How did that whiff? I like the pressure. I don't know. I would have just done down one into something. But yeah, let's keep going. Nice. Atmo needs to work. Nice. Ah, unfortunate. You tried. Minus 10 or minus 11. I don't know how that whiffed. That's really funny. I don't understand. Yo, nice side step. Nice.
That was a victory right there. Here's what happened. That was 1-1. Right now,
oh, here we go. Yeah, so this is the round that I really liked a lot. I liked your playstyle. I liked how you played this round a lot. So like right here, right? Like he hasn't. You'd have to lab it up. I already talked about the down forward one situation, so not gonna worry. Right, so right here, it's again, you have to focus on how are you going to lock down your opponent, right? Forward 1+2. I mean, it puts Jack in full crouch, and he has lows from full crouch, which is annoying, but like, still. You limit his movement, he can't backdash, he can't really sidestep in a good direction, right? Because he has to, oh, he sidesteps right, but you have down forward 1. Right, course will go back 4, stuff like that. Like, how are you going to lock down your opponent? Throwing out these kind of, like, big commitment wall spotting moves is not the play, right? Maybe course will go back 2, but, like, not much else there, so we'll talk about it. That's such a weird whiff. That's my problem with down forward 1 is like people are like, oh, it's such a good down forward 1. I'm like, I don't know, man. That hitbox is unreliable. Unfortunate. Yeah, see, like I love this. This is like what I'm talking about, right? Just constant mixing up your timing, right? Course will go forward 3, chip damage, 17, 34, 51. Oh wait, yeah, I can math. 51. So you just got 50 points of damage from just dashing up, waiting a little bit, and then pressing a low, right? Lots of chip damage, and now the big health lead that Jack had is a lot closer, right? And in a in a battle for damage, right? Is Jack really gonna beat out Paul, right? So That's what I'm talking about just like simple timing mix-ups and chip damage, and that's why a lot of Paul's lows are so good, right? Nice. And then now it's like boom, huge punish opportunity, just waiting a little bit, and it's like, hey, where's your health, bro? Unfortunate, but it's fine. Weird. I wonder what he hit you out of. He really likes that. I don't understand why he likes that Oki option, but nice. Oh my god. Ah, I could literally just clip that. I'd watch that all day. It's the funniest shit. Blue Death Fist against people and they're in the scramble situation. Nice whiff punish. So now, okay, so now let's talk about it, right? So you just did a bunch of core circle 4 ones in the previous round, and then we're gonna see throughout this round that Jack is just getting ready to duck you at any point. So that's the thing you got to remember of like, okay, I did a lot of lows, and when do you want to change it? When do you want to just start going for mids, right? If you don't want a big commitment mid like core circle forward 3+4, then doing just core circle forward 4 is the play, right? Very low commitment, but it'll still get you decent chip damage. I think Paul's wall standing for is like 18 points of damage. Oh, that's solid, yeah. 18 points of damage, right? So easy amounts of damage, right? And if he blocks it, so what? He blocks it. But you're making him guess, like, fuck, is it going to be a low or a mid, right? He's not going to feel comfortable as much. So... but you see what I mean as we keep going. But like, look at this, right? Look at all this. He's the one starting to like, fuck, I gotta press buttons, right? You're making a Jack press buttons when they don't feel comfortable, and he's just backdashing to the wall, right? And he's throwing out buttons. Excuse me. And look at how this is going, right? You're get out of my head, Charles. You're literally in his head, right? You do core circle 4-3, you dash forward, you do empty one, and he's immediately just ducking in your face, right? So if you did a hop kick or any mid, right? So this is what I'm talking about, like how just simple timing and just poking can lead to a lot, right? Against players that are just kind of like, well, fuck. And that's the scariest type of Paul, where they're just kind of like, I'm not gonna press any buttons, I'm just gonna poke you to death, right? And that's where you can do so much with so little, and that's the key factor here.
He really wants to run back. He wants to run it back. Second hit is high. Don't forget people. Stop on your right foot. Don't forget it.
Good. Oh no, I thought you broke it. Unfortunate. Does he have a full throw game? Oh shit. Unfortunate. So I thought you played out the round well, just unfortunate in the last one, but good punish. A bit commitment heavy to get out of the wall, but it got the job done. It's solid. I feel like you can. So again, this is where we talk about like you need to sidestep a bit more. I feel like you can sidestep that, right? I don't know what move that is, but I feel like you can sidestep it. It's like his down 3. Yeah, that's his down 3, right? Left kick, right kick. Right kick is 3. Yeah. I think. No. Left kick is 3. That's his right kick. So full crouch, down 4. No, those usually have good tracking, right? That's unfortunate. Experiment with it. I feel like there could be a bit more. Maybe you do just have to call it out and challenge it. But, it's fine. Your option to just backdash was also fine. I don't think you necessarily needed to challenge it, right? You don't always need to challenge the opponent. I feel like the option you chose was fine. Ah, unfortunate. Oh, he can't do the follow-up. Debug. He dead. That was hype.
It keeps you in the ranges to be able to do your whip punishes. But why wouldn't you do it? Look at that.
Good throw.
And the dash up. Everybody around here is scared to mash on triple. Everybody knows it. Nice. Let's
Nice.
go. We are blocking the debugs.
Is that a setup? That's really cool. I never knew that. Huh.
That is the Oki that I got caught by and done.
Oh god. And that's a horrible punish, unfortunate.
Run some Foxy Grandpa stuff. I saw him do it against me earlier, and it sure did work.
Sick. Alright, let's do the usual. Neutral, punishment slash matchup knowledge, combo slash Oki, personal opinion stuff. Neutral. I talked a lot about it already, but I feel like your approach needs a lot more experimentation with how you choose to approach, right? Like we saw in the last round, where you can do so much with just dash blocking and Corsical forward 3, right? Like you're already in the dude's head with just like 3 of those, right? But adding in jabs, adding in maybe the occasional down forward 1, right? Adding in, what's more lockdown, it's not really approach, but Corsical back forward. But just, I feel like the biggest thing I'd want to see more from you is using more 1 jabs and using just simple jabs, maybe the occasional magic 4, to sort of focus in on, again, that idea of low commitment but maximizing your potential reward as a result. And it's going to be very difficult. There's not like any golden rule to like, hey, use the 1 jab like this and you will see success. You have to be very creative with simple tools, but that's where that's where a lot of the potential, like the craziness of Tekken, the rewards for Tekken lie, is just kind of like super simple tools but incredibly creative usage of them, right? Other aspects of neutral, we talked about the whiff punishment. We talked about how you just need to rein it in a little bit, and you can do a lot, right? Other aspects of neutral, punishment slash matchup are other aspects of neutral. Not much else to talk about, and you want to hold off on kind of like just rein it in a little bit. Punishment slash matchup knowledge, you want to focus in on, what is my opponent doing? What can I do to punish them for it? And how is that going to look, right? Combo slash Oki. There's not much else to say there. Oh, Oki, right? It's not really Oki, right? Your opponent's not on the ground, but when your opponent's back is to the wall, right? You need to experiment more with how you can keep them locked down, right? And experiment with like Corsical back 4, forward 1+2, etc., 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 right? The last thing about personal opinion stuff, I already talked a lot about the options that I would prefer, right? But I'll just cut it off here. I feel like I've given you a lot of thought. Let me know what you think. If you were like, hey, I actually need this type of feedback from you, or I need something else, let me know. All right? Later.